felt relaxed when she heard that and thanked the native doctor. But deep down within her, she hoped that they would be wrong about Shoma. That Shoma would not confess to anything after eating the food, because she hoped that Shoma would not be guilty. In Ikeja, Lagos, lived two girls called Feishayo and Chioma. Feishayo was called Fei for short. Fei and Chioma are not blood related, but they lived together, grew up together, and referred to each other as sisters. The love and bond between them was so strong until they allowed jealousy, deceit, and dishonesty to enter into their hearts and to come between them. This is how they came to live and grow up together. Faye was the only child of her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Abayomi. The Abayomis were not so wealthy, but were comfortable. Her father, Mr. Abayomi, worked in the bank as a junior accountant, while her mother, Mrs. Bukumi Abayomi, was a secondary school teacher. Faye also attended the school where her mother works. Now, the Abayomis had a neighbor they were very close to and most friendly with amongst their other neighbors. These were the Undubisis, Chioma's biological family. The Undubisis consist of Mr. Undubisi, his wife, Mrs. Undubisi, their first child and only daughter, Chioma, and their young son, Ebubi. As a matter of fact, Mr. Abayomi and Mr. Undubisi hadn't just been neighbors alone. They had also been colleagues at work. They had worked in the same bank and usually would leave for work together most of the time and help each other out with work. And this is what has made the two families so close than they were with the rest of their other neighbors. Just like their Abayomis, the Undubisis weren't also wealthy, but they had been comfortable. But then, they became a downsizing and laying off of some staff due to a new policy in the bank where they had worked, in order to manage staff salaries and expenditure. And unfortunately, Mr. Undubisi was affected. Not that he wasn't good and efficient at his job, not that he hadn't been very productive. Even his being laid off came as a shock to his colleagues, especially to Mr. Abayomi. But because for a long time the branch manager then, a female, had been romantically interested in him and had been begging him to be involved with her and have an unholy relationship with her. But Mr. Undubisi was one who loved his wife so much and would not bring himself to cheat on her or do anything to destroy his marriage. And so, had turned down the branch manager's request and said no to her advances. She became angry with him for this and used her influence to include his name as part of those that were laid off, even though the list came from the headquarters. With the loss of his job, life became a little tough for the Undubisis. Mrs. Undubisi was only a small retail trader who sold small provisions. Mr. Undubisi tried to get another job, but he was unlucky, as everywhere he went, he was told that they weren't hiring. Soon, he resorted to drinking due to frustration. His friend and neighbor, Mr. Abayomi, tried to encourage him and make him stop drinking, but he wouldn't listen. To him, his situation was hopeless. And one evening on his way back from where he had gone to drink himself to stupor, he walked into a vehicle which was moving on a very high speed. The vehicle hit him and he died on the spot. Mrs. Undubisi mourned her husband for many days, crying uncontrollably and refusing to be consoled. Then, one morning 4 weeks after her husband's death, she was also found lifeless also on her bed. No one knew how she died. The neighbors and many other people had suggested that an autopsy be conducted to find out the cause of her death. But everyone just spoke and no one was willing to provide the money for the autopsy. Mr. Ondubisi had been the only one from his extended family who was managing to do okay. The rest of his extended family were poor and were all in the village. And Mrs. Ondubisi was an orphan who barely knew her family and barely related with the few she knew. So, nobody came forth or was ready to take up the responsibility for the autopsy. They only just managed to bury her immediately. With both parents gone, Chioma and her baby brother became helpless orphans. At this time, Chioma was only 12 years old. One Uncle Dike, her late father's uncle, reluctantly agreed to take Chioma and her little brother to live with him. After every other family members gave numerous excuses about their financial status as the reason for why they cannot help Chioma and her small brother. So, Chioma started living with Uncle Dike in Mushin, another sub-part of Lagos. However, one day, 4 months later, Chioma ran away from Uncle Dike's house. Though she had been only 12 years old then, she was able to find her way from Mushin to Ikeja. Bukumi, Feishayo's mother, had just returned from work that Friday afternoon and was preparing what they would have for dinner when she heard a knock on the door. She asked Feishayo to get the door, and lo and behold, it was Chioma standing at the door, looking so unkempt and very lean. Uncle Dike had tried to force Chioma to marry one rich Alhaji in Mushin in order to get plenty money from him.
Look, you have to marry Alhaji Musa. I don't have money to feed you, let alone train you in school. But if you marry Alhaji Musa, I will use the money he will pay as your dowry to trade and send your brother to school when he is old enough to go to school. You are a woman and do not really need any education, but your brother as a male child does. So just cooperate and marry Alhaji Musa,
Uncle Dike had said to Chioma. Chioma cried and begged Uncle Dike not to make her marry Alhaji Musa, but he insisted that she was going to. They started making preparations for the marriage ceremony, and as Chioma saw that Uncle Dike was serious about it and would give her off to Alhaji Musa in 2 days' time, she decided to run away. She found some money Uncle Dike had kept hidden, took some of it, and ran to the motor park, finding her way to Ikeja and to the compound she once lived with her late parents.
Please help me. I don't want to marry that old Alhaji or anyone at all,
she said to Mr. and Mrs. Abayomi in tears as she stood at their door. Mr. Abayomi took up the case. Chioma was underage, she was only 12 years old, and shouldn't be forced into marriage. So, he reported the issue to the State Child Welfare Office and got them to intervene in the issue. Uncle Dike was arrested and was made to pay a huge fine for what he had attempted to do. The social welfare was going to take Chioma and her brother to the orphanage and put them up for adoption. But then, Mr. Abayomi started to think, what if they are also not being treated well by whomever will adopt them, he thought. He thought for long and decided that he was going to take them in. After all, Ondubisi had been his close friend and had been like a brother to him. He discussed this with his wife, who was happy to have Chioma and Ebube live with them. She had tried to have more children after she had Feishayo, but she was unable to, after a fibroid surgery she had, so she welcomed the idea. I am sure Fei would also be delighted to have them live with us. She had always asked and had always wanted siblings to play with, Bukumi replied. And so, that was how Chioma came to live with the Abayomis. And yes, Fairshire was overjoyed to have her friend Chioma and her brother live with them. She had cried when Chioma had to go live with Uncle Dike and had even begged her parents not to let Chioma go. So, she was more than pleased and happy now to have Chioma not just back to the compound, but to have her now live in the same house with her. Feye and Chioma grew up doing everything together. Same school and in the same class while in secondary school. And they even ended up in the same university. As a matter of fact, Feye had refused to accept her admission when she was first offered admission into the university and waited until Chioma got her own admission because she did not want to be ahead of Chioma and leave Chioma behind. Chioma wasn't as bright as Feye was academically. Even when they were in secondary school, Feye always taught Chioma and would always allow Chioma copy from her. Bukumi tried severally to stop them. She would punish them, mostly Feye, because Feye was the one always allowing Chioma to copy her. And because she felt that because Feye was a biological child, and so she felt safe to cane her and try to inculcate and enforce discipline on her. But to Feye, it felt like as long as she was being punished for Chioma's sake, it was no problem, and would even request for more punishments. Even in school, the teachers got tired. They separated them and did not allow them to sit together. Yet, Feye always still found a way to help Chioma. She loved Chioma so much. She protected Chioma even from bullies. She would fight anybody that insulted or tried to bully Chioma. Apart from being the dull one, physically, Chioma was also the weak one. But with Feye, she had no fear. Feye loved and protected her. They addressed each other as sisters and introduced themselves to people that way as well. They acted like twins, wore the same clothes, and made the same hairstyle. Sometimes it was just their names, especially their last name, that gave them off and made few smart and fast-thinking people know that they weren't twins or biologically related in the first place. Twice, Chioma failed her post-UME examination because for the first time, she and Feye couldn't be in the same examination hall, and so Feye couldn't get to help her. Feye, who passed her post-UME examination the first time, refused to accept her admission. She rejected it and sat for the examination again the second time with Chioma. She passed again the second time, but rejected it again because Chioma did not pass. By this time, her parents were so furious with her. What is wrong with you, Feye? Have you lost your sense of reasoning? What if you never pass again and lose the opportunity of ever getting into the university again? They asked her.
Oh well, I wouldn't mind, so long as Chioma is able to get in,
Feye had replied. Her parents looked at each other with an expression of disbelief. They began to wonder if Chioma is a witch and had charmed their daughter. Are you sure we didn't make a grave mistake by bringing this girl into our home? They asked each other. They went to a pastor and also to another prophet to tell them about their fears and concern. But both the pastor and the prophet told them that there was nothing like that. That the two girls are just bonded by genuine love and sisterhood. It is their fates. In the spirit realm, they are sisters and are bounded by love, the pastor and prophet told them. And also warned Mr. and Mrs. Abayomi not to separate them. I must also warn that you tell them to always be truthful to each other and not to let jealousy and hatred come between them. Else, they would regret it and pay dearly. The prophet and pastor had warned Mr. and Mrs. Abayomi. So, Mr. Abayomi and his wife decided to let the girls be. However, they had failed to warn them about what the prophet and pastor had said. So, for the third time, the two girls took the post-UME again. And this time, Chioma passed. And so did Feyi. Feyi was very brilliant, so she did pass all the 3 times she sat for the exam. Well, Feyi studied English and literary studies, while Chioma studied theatre arts. Even in the university, Feyi continued to help Chioma. She helped her with her assignments and sometimes would even sneak to help her write her test. The only thing she didn't help Chioma with were her physical and practical tests and performances, because Chioma was a talented dancer, performer and theatre artist. At least she was good in that. Soon, they both graduated, and it was with good grades. For the first time since growing together, they were eventually separated when they had to go for their mandatory National Youth Service. Chioma was posted to Oyo State. Oyo State wasn't so far from Lagos State. However, Feyi was posted to the South Edo State. Feyi tried her best to the extent of offering bribe so she would be redeployed to Oyo State and be with Chioma. But it did not work. Instead, she was redeployed to Bayelsa State. Anyway, having no other option, Feyi remained in Bayelsa State and did her 1-year mandatory National Youth Service. Now, towards the completion of her national service, Feyi was offered a job by the Bayelsa State government to work in the Department of Curriculum Planning in the Ministry of Education in the state, because of her exceptional efforts and service throughout her service year. With her intellect, Feyi contributed positively to their school's curriculum, organized mind-blowing lectures as part of her community service, and taught and helped children who had learning difficulties. And it is because of all this that the Bayelsa State government offered her the job, which came with a mouth-watering pay. However, Feyi refused to accept the job, all because she couldn't wait to be united with Chioma again. The offer was mouth-watering, and Feyi had wanted to accept it. But she thought of Chioma, and so called Chioma to ask if she would be willing to relocate to Bayelsa State to come live with her. As a matter of fact, she was able to also secure a job for Chioma. Feyi often spoke about Chioma to everyone whenever she had the opportunity to. She never ceased to mention how much she missed her sister Chioma, and also complained of being separated for Chioma if she chose to accept the job offer. So, a high-level official and civil servant in the ministry used his position to also get a job for Chioma, even when he didn't know her nor had met her. You speak so much and highly of your sister, and from the way you speak so much about her, and having grown up together as you have said, I believe that I am not making a mistake by offering her a job, even though I hadn't met her yet, because I believe that even if she's just as half as you are, she would be a good and efficient girl also, the man said to Feyi. However, Chioma said she wouldn't accept the offer or relocate to Bayelsa State because she wants to join the Nollywood and become an actress. And that was why she had studied theatre arts in the first place. And Lagos is where I can get the opportunity and achieve my dreams. I can't become a celebrity or popular actress if I stay in Bayelsa State, Chioma told Feyi when she called to tell her about the job. And so, Feyi returned to Lagos after the completion of her National Youth Service, rejecting the job offer and mouth-watering pay she was offered, all because she wanted to be with Chioma. Chioma also returned back to Lagos from Oyo State. Now, back in Lagos and having done with school and service, Feyi started job hunting, while Chioma went from one audition to another. And for almost 2 years, this was their routine. However, Chioma could not get any major role, but only got waka pass roles. And for Feyi, she also couldn't secure any job and only managed to secure a teaching job in a fairly okay small private school with very little pay. Then, after many months of not getting any good role, Chioma decided to start selling wigs in order to support herself, pending when she will be able to land a major role. A friend and coursemate of hers back from the university called Nkechi linked her up with a wig vendor that allowed her to do dropshipping. It means that she allowed Chioma to advertise her wigs and to add her own percentage to the original price for each wig. Chioma started selling the wigs, and in no time, just barely 5 months that she started, she became very big and rented her own shop. She no longer did dropshipping. She bought her own wigs in wholesale and sold them in her own shop. Then, she grew very fast again, and in another 5 months, moved from a small shop in Ikeja to a bigger shop in Lekki. Chioma became very big. She moved from the Abayomi's house and rented her own flat in Lekki also. Meanwhile, Feyi still struggled in her poor teaching job. When Chioma was moving out, she had asked that she followed her, but Chioma refused. No, Lekki to Ikeja is far now. If you move in with me, how would you cope with getting to work every day here in Ikeja from Lekki? Chioma had said.
Well, she's right. Lekki to Ikeja is far.
Feyi said to her mother when her mother later asked her in the evening what Chioma's response was when she asked to move in with her. Really? Chioma said that to you? So she can't help you now that she's doing well and left you here to continue struggling after all the sacrifices you made for her all these years? Bukumi asked in anger.
Look, mommy, leave it. She's right. I have a job here. Besides, it is barely 1 year she just started this her wig business. I may still be finding her feet. So, just let her be.
Feyi said, making excuses for Chioma. Well, this made Chioma and Feyi grew distant because they no longer saw each other as frequent as before. Anyway, Chioma continued to grow in her wig business, and even very, very fast. She even started traveling out of the country on vacations to meet some suppliers, while Feyi remained in the same level struggling. Chioma even refused Feyi from coming to visit her whenever she wants to. She would always give the excuse of not being around and that she was in a location auditioning or that she had traveled to restock her wigs. After some time, Bukumi, Feyi's mother, could no longer endure everything that was happening. So one day, she went to Chioma's house without even letting her know. Bukumi did not hide her displeasure about Chioma's attitude towards Feyi. Chioma, after all we did for you, we took you in when you lost your parents and treated you as our own daughter. And Feyi, she treated you more than some people would treat their own biological sisters. She loved you and made sacrifices for you over and over again. How can you treat her the way you are treating her now? Bukumi said to Chioma. See, I will lay a curse on you. I would never forgive you. if you do not help and teach Feyi your wig business, Bukumi told Chioma. And so, touched by all Bukumi said, Chioma decided to establish Feyi in the wig business also. She helped her with capital for the business and introduced her to her suppliers and even some of her customers. But she still would not allow Feyi to move in with her. Instead, she gave her money to rent her own apartment. Feyi was grateful still and did not even take offense about everything. But 2 years down the line, Chioma continued to grow and grow and even opened more branches, whereas Feyi struggled with the wig business. On the 3rd year that Feyi had been in the business and was still struggling, her mother Bukumi could no longer endure it. From all you have told me and all that is happening now, I strongly believe that Chioma girl is evil and has diverted your daughter's destiny and luck to herself. Yakayode, Bukumi's new neighbor and friend, said to Bukumi one day when Bukumi complained to her, You must go spiritual if you want to take back your daughter's destiny, Yakayode said to Bukumi. And so, days later, she took Bukumi to a native doctor. The native doctor asked Bukumi to come with her daughter Feyi, and she did. She did by deceiving Feyi that she was taking her to a harmless spiritualist who would pray for her and her business. When Feyi got there, she realized that it was a native doctor. However, Feyi also recently had been nursing the thoughts that Chioma did not mean well for her, because many of their friends from way back in school had been filling her heads with negative words. Why is it that she succeeded just barely few months she started the wig business and is succeeding till now, while you have been struggling with the same business for years and have not even amounted to anything? Many of them had said to her. And Feyi, now tired about how her own life has turned out, began to accept and nurse these thoughts. Well, the native doctor gave Feyi a substance, a sham, and told her to put it in Chioma's milk. Feyi looked at the native doctor with fear and worry. No, Baba, I don't want her to die. I cannot do that to her. She's still my sister, she said, expressing her fears. The native doctor smiled and said to her, The sham is not meant to kill her. It is meant for her to speak up and confess if truly she has been using your luck sham and causing you misfortune. If she has, by confessing, what she has done would be broken and we will take the next step by cleansing you, the native doctor told Feyi. Feyi felt relaxed when she heard that and thanked the native doctor. But deep down within her, she hoped that they would be wrong about Chioma, that Chioma would not confess to anything after eating the food, because she hoped that Chioma would not be guilty. But be careful, the native doctor said, interjecting them as she and her mother made to leave. Be careful that no one else must eat the food you put the sham in. The sham is made for Chioma and not anyone else. Chioma would not die, like I told you, if she eats it. It is only meant to make her confess. But if any other person eats it, the person would die, because it is not meant for them. Even you or your mother, anybody at all, would die. So be careful, the native doctor warned. And so, Feyi left the native doctor's place, thinking of how to properly use the charm. Throughout in the days that followed, she kept thinking. A voice and a part of her told her to forget about the old pain and not to use the charm. That Chioma could never do such to her. But another voice in her kept telling her to stop being a dunce and stop continuing to sacrifice for Chioma, and should go ahead to use the charm to make Chioma confess. Anyway, Faye resolved to use the charm. She visited Chioma one day unannounced in her wig shop. She took along with her food she had bought from an eatery and had added the charm. Chioma thanked her for coming to check on her, even though she was not happy that Faye hadn't informed her before coming. She also thanked Faye for the food. Now, after Faye handed over the food to Chioma, a middle-aged man and his PA walked in. "Ah, my honorable, welcome," Chioma said to the man, smiling, and gave him a gentle hug. Faye stared at the man. From the way he looked and the young, energetic, smart young man, which was his PA that he came with, Faye could tell that he was a very wealthy man. And then, Chioma addressed him as honorable. So, Faye could tell that he wasn't just an ordinary wealthy man, but a wealthy politician. Maybe he's here to buy expensive wigs for his wife. Or even maybe one of his side chicks, who knows? Faye thought within her. Well, Chioma told the man to wait for her in her office. "Please, honorable, wait for me in my office. I will be with you and attend to you shortly," she said to him. The man went in while his PA waited for him outside. "Oya Faye, please, you can come and go now. As you can see, I have an important client to attend to. Thanks for coming to check on me," Chioma said, urging Faye to leave. "But I can stay now. I won't disturb you or your work," Faye said, trying to stay back because she wanted to be sure that Chioma would eat the food she had given her. "No, please go," Chioma insisted. Faye stood up slowly and made to leave, but just as she stepped one foot out of the shop, they heard a loud groan. The man in Chioma's office was coughing in distress and calling out for someone to give him water. Chioma ran into her office, her girls and Faye following behind. Because the door of the shop had been open as Faye was already stepping out of it at the time, the man's PA also heard the noise and commotion and also ran in. Entering her office, Chioma saw the man holding his throat and coughing out blood and some food particles. On her table, she saw that the food Faye had brought to her was already opened, and apparently, the man had eaten from it. Chioma had asked one of her girls to drop the food on her table when Faye brought it. Shocked to see that the man was coughing out blood, Chioma and every other person there knew instantly that the food was poisoned. Chioma looked at Faye in disbelief. "You tried to poison me?" she asked. Well, Chioma also had been getting tired and frustrated when she kept going from one audition to another without landing any major role. Out of frustration, she had also wanted to join Faye in her teaching job. At that time to her, it was better than the numerous unsuccessful auditions. However, her friend and classmate back in school called Nkechi spoke to her. Nkechi was also going for the auditions. They went together. However, Nkechi was a big girl and lived an expensive and lavish lifestyle. So, she had money to spend. Acting for her was an hobby, and that was why she kept going for the auditions. Chioma had spoken to Nkechi so much about Faye. She told her how Faye and her family had been nice to her, and how Faye had sacrificed so much for her over the years. So, when she got tired of the numerous unsuccessful auditions and wanted to also take on a teaching job like Faye, Nkechi spoke to her and discouraged her about it. Don't you have a life apart of your own? Must you always follow Feyi in whatever she does? Can't you learn to do something on your own and succeed on your own without following in Feyi's footsteps? Every time Feyi. I beg, have your own life and take charge of your own destiny. Nkechi said to Chioma, discouraging her from doing the same teaching job as Feyi. She suggested to her instead to start a business on the side, pending when they would land a major role in the movie industry. And that was when Chioma decided to start her wig business. Nkechi had helped and linked her with the wig vendor she did dropshipping for. But Chioma struggled to make sales. And that was when Nkechi revealed the source of her extravagant lifestyle to Chioma. She told Chioma that she was into hookup and convinced Chioma to join her. Chioma was reluctant at first, but she kept thinking of Nkechi's words. Don't be a liability and a copycat that always have to rely on Feyi and copy her. Are you not tired? You are supposed to be ashamed, Nkechi had said to her. And so, Chioma joined Nkechi to do hookup, following rich sugar daddies. It was these sugar daddies that opened up her expensive wig shops for her, got her connections of rich women to patronize her, and even rented the expensive apartments she lived. They were the ones who sponsored her expensive trips and stocked her shop. Chioma had been too ashamed to tell Feyi or let her know that she was now into hookup, and that was why she had refused Feyi from coming to live with her and distanced herself from her. So, Chioma wasn't using Feyi's destiny or whatever thing they thought she was doing. Neither did she not meant well for Feyi. To her, she had only wanted to succeed without having to depend on Feyi or copy her all the time. And deep down, she often missed how so close she and Feyi had been. But she had been scared Feyi would judge her new lifestyle, and that was why she hid everything from her. And the Honorable who had come into her shop was one amongst her numerous sugar daddies who had dropped by to pick her up for their lunch date that afternoon. He saw the food on her table and just thought to test for meat because he was hungry himself. And oftentimes in the past, he and Chioma had eaten together. But unfortunately, the food was no ordinary food. Anyway, his PA quickly rushed him to the hospital. However, he did not survive it. He died, just as the native doctor had warned. His PA reported the incident to the police, and Chioma was arrested because it was in her shop the Honorable had been poisoned. Chioma confessed to the police that it was Feyi who gave her the food, and so Feyi too was arrested. It was while in the prison that the two girls spilled everything. Feyi confessed to Chioma why and how she got the charm she put in the food, letting her know that she wasn't planning to kill her, but had only wanted her to confess to what she thought she was doing. And for Chioma, she opened up about how her wig business became successful and the supposed successful lifestyle she lived. The two girls cried after opening up to each other, realizing that they had allowed bad advice, bad perception, hearsay, jealousy, deceit, and dishonesty to ruin them and the bond they had shared over the years. Anyway, and unfortunately for Feyi, she was sentenced to death by the courts because the man that died as a result of her action was a top politician. His family was wealthy and ensured that Feyi paid for her actions. Chioma felt guilty and couldn't stop blaming herself for how things turned out for Feyi. And so, days later, she too committed suicide by drinking poison. And so, the two girls died untimely. It was a sad one, A tragic end for two girls who once loved each other so dearly and had a bright future, but had allowed hearsay, dishonesty, and deceit enter into their midst. Their stories serve as a lesson for many. So be careful about hearsay, bad advice, deceit, and jealousy. It is important that whenever we hear something about someone or feel some way, if we think that they have treated us badly, we should go to them and talk to them about it. This would clarify any misunderstanding or misconception. Also, it is okay to follow and copy our friends if what they are doing is right. All we need to do is copy in the right way and not to be in an unhealthy competition with them. Shoma wasn't wrong for wanting to also get into the teaching job like Feyi, and Feyi also hadn't been wrong for also going into the wig business. The problem here was that they allowed jealousy, bad counsel, and unhealthy competition to destroy them. I hope you enjoyed this story and have learned so much from it. You can also share in the comment section other lessons you have learned. I would love to read them all. Also, I would like to know if you think one of the characters was most at fault and should take the most blame. Please, before you go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next story. Bye.